It is outstanding, particularly for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Gear, even NeoGeo Pocket. They all scale beautifully to fit the display. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, be sure to go down below the video, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. Today we are looking at another retro gaming handheld, but this one is a bit more unique. The Powkiddy RGB30 console is a device that's been buzzing in the retro gaming community, and I do want to thank the team over at litnxt.com for sending me this device to have a look at. Now let's find out if this handheld is a must or a bust, but first let's unbox and explore a bit. The box itself is super minimalist, effectively and simply telling you only what you need to know about the device. Nothing fancy, just the information. Inside of the box we have the handheld console itself, which we will set aside for a moment. A USB Type-C charging cable, and then we also have a user guide, and that's pretty much all that you get. Looking around the handheld, it is actually super unique in that it comes with a very large square display. We're going to talk about that a tiny bit more, but let's move on. It has a fairly nice feeling D-pad and 4 action buttons just above 2 Switch style analog sticks. There is also dual front facing stereo speakers as well as our 4 side-by-side shoulder buttons. Along the bottom we have 2 USB Type-C ports, one dedicated for charging and the other for OTG or additional accessories. In between those we have 2 TF card slots, one for the OS and the other for your game files, and finally in the center we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. Not much happening on the sides, but along the top we have our shoulder buttons, which we just mentioned, but we also have our volume controls, a mini HDMI port, and our power and reset buttons as well. Now let's go ahead and get technical with the device and the specs that it comes with. The display is a 4-inch IPS OCA fully bonded screen with a resolution of 720 by 720. It is a 1:1 aspect ratio. It is running the RK3566 SoC, which is a quad-core ARM Cortex A55 CPU clocked in at 1.8 GHz. That's going to be coupled with the Mali G52 MP2 GPU and 1 gig of LPDDR4 RAM. 16 gigs of storage comes stock via the operating system SD card, but it is expandable with that second SD card slot. It has a 4100 mAh battery, which should get you between 5 to 6 hours of continuous gameplay, and finally it comes built with 5G Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. The RGB30 might seem unassuming with its square screen and classic control layout, but it's in these features that its charm lies. The 1:1 aspect ratio screen is a unique choice, offering a crisp 720p display that retro games thrive on. It's really bright and vibrant with excellent color contrast. The buttons feel a bit tactile, and it's got responsive analog sticks, and the D-pad feels okay, but after spending some time with it, I did notice that it felt a little bit too sensitive. Now this isn't necessarily a deal breaker or anything, but I did find it to be a bit more challenging for games that require precision inputs, and I really needed to adjust accordingly. The handheld is a great size and sits really comfortably in your hands, and the device housing is made from a smooth plastic, so it can feel a little bit slippery, but they do add tiny bits of texture on the front corners and along the sides, which do help maintain an okay grip. Another thing that I'm not really a fan of, and it's not specific to this device, but I don't really love the side-by-side shoulder buttons, and I do prefer them to be stacked. It's just more comfortable to me. They did angle the R2 and L2 buttons, which does make the grip feel a little bit more natural, but this is just a personal preference and not everyone will agree with me on this, and I'd like you to let me know in the comments section down below if you actually prefer stacked buttons or side-by-side shoulder buttons. Jumping back into the screen quality, it is outstanding, particularly for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Gear, even NeoGeo Pocket. They all scale beautifully to fit the display. Despite the niche aspect ratio, systems like Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Sega Genesis, they all look sharp, and thanks to the high resolution screen, they work quite well. And another console that actually shines super brightly is Nintendo DS, where the aspect ratio actually works really well to fill the screen better than on other more traditional handhelds with a 4:3 aspect ratio display. Performance across all the consoles that I previously just mentioned are excellent with the exception of some slowdowns on Nintendo DS, and the handheld really does provide an amazing experience visually that you don't typically get from these types of products in this form factor. Having both 5G Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is a big plus for updates, multiplayer gaming, or even connecting a wireless controller while using this as a plug-and-play console through the HDMI out to your TV. The 1-to-1 aspect ratio isn't ideal for all systems though, specifically with PSP and some of the more modern games, you'll be getting larger black bars or bezels than you would like and simply a smaller image. And I have also noticed that when playing for extended periods, the device can get a bit warm, and in actually some cases I had the device just flat out shut itself off, particularly when pushing the limits with more demanding emulators like those for Nintendo 64 and PlayStation Portable titles. The RK3566 chip, while not the most powerful chipset on the market, does a perfectly job running classic games up to the PS1 era with relative ease. N64 and Dreamcast titles are hit or miss, but when it's hit, it actually plays reasonably well. The console's default operating system, Gel OS, is user-friendly, and menu and setting options are plentiful, adding to the device's reliability. Now we're going to check out a bunch of different gameplay and performance for emulation so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm going to include consoles like GameBoy Color, NeoGeo Pocket so you can see just how well they look on this display, and then I'm going to show you some performance stuff from PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, Nintendo 64, and a little bit of PSP. Overall, the emulation performance is commendable, with customization options to tweak the gaming experience to your liking. Now, the Powkiddy RGB30 may be niche, but it's a delightful piece of hardware that retro gaming enthusiasts will appreciate. Its distinctive screen and reliable performance make it a standout in the sea of handheld consoles. Priced in at around the $90 mark, this very well could be my favorite handheld in this price point, specifically for those GameBoy Color types of games. And I think if you are primarily interested in those types of consoles, you might think so as well. While it won't replace some of the more powerful handhelds on the market, and it does have that niche, unique screen size, it's a fantastic companion for those looking to relive the classics on the go or at home. That is pretty much all I've got for you guys in this video. As always, I will leave some links in the description down below for you to learn a little bit more or pick one up for yourself. Let me know in the comments section if you think a 1-to-1 aspect ratio makes sense for handhelds like this. It's certainly not something that you see very often, but anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I'll speak to you guys again real soon.